We're good. Okay, we are now back in open session. I guess you can record that as 5:40.
No, 5:30 is when we did the roll call.
We did roll call, got that listed? Okay. So we're now back in open session. We have only one action item from the closed session that has to do with the providing snow plowing services on private roads. So,
No, actually, the next agenda item is
pardon me?
discussion of the railroad.
No,
No, but we have to
gotta-
do the
We
open
have to do
session.
an open session.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, we have to get that. So, we need a motion, as discussed on the snow plowing claim from Kansas. So we have a motion.
Restate the motion.
Okay. The motion is to, get the right term here, disallow the claim from Kansas on the, providing snow plowing services on private roads. That is the motion.
Second.
Floor. Barb Church, second. Further discussion? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we are going into our regular posted part of our open session, and that is to discussion on the agreement with the East Troy Road Museum regarding the Beach Road Bridge. And
Do we have any flexibility to do roads for Todd while he's here?
this one, we quick, we could jump
Oh,
back to that.
Okay.
So the Beach Road Bridge, as discussed at the meeting that we had here with the executive committee of the railroad, as well as I had some discussions with the CEO on it, to let them know that we're meeting tonight to discuss this. And what we're down to here is we do know, in order to get any state or federal funding on that bridge, that the town has to own it, number one. Number two, it is in the best interest of the town, as we discussed and approved previously, that eventually we'll own this, but we'll only own it free and clear of all other encumbrances until, the bridge is actually replaced. So what we need is an agreement for a bill of sale from the railroad to the town, for that bridge, so we own it, but still hold with the legal responsibility that the railroad has for the maintenance of that structure until it's totally replaced. And what we have done to date is a 50-50 split. There's language back when the bridge was built in 1980 that we had a 50-50 split, even though when I do the math on it, it looks like we paid for the approaches, which are pretty expensive in that case, because we also had to buy right-of-way there. It looked more like a third, but really when push come to shove on it, all the discussion was federal government, 80%, Village of East Troy, 20%, of their 20%, the town of East Troy paid 10% on that bridge, and the town of McQuanico paid 10% of the Phantom Woods Bridge. So that's what needs to happen, is to have an agreement that we can agree on, at least the language that holds the railroad responsible for half of the maintenance cost and replacement cost, and also being fully aware that we expect 80 to 100% funding on this. Somehow we should probably mention that too, but it's really incumbent on us to get the ball rolling on this so that we can establish that ownership and then apply for the state and federal money that is available for that bridge replacement. And the county engineer was here and the head of the DPW both at the meeting, and they said this bridge will be top of the list. Okay, and he's the one that, when they appropriate the money to the bridges in the county, he's the guy that does it. And out of his own mouth, he did say, yes, this would be the number one choice here. So were you able to come up with any language, Jim, that you think would fit that bill? That we own it, but the railroad is still responsible until it's totally replaced?
Well, no, because I
Wasn't
provided you with my comments
Seen it.
and the draft,
Mhm.
and this is the first time we're meeting since then.
Okay.
So I don't even know what the board had in mind.
Okay,
I
All right.
gave my suggestions.
okay. And I provided you with the report I did at the annual meeting,
Yes,
which basically, stated the facts. And by the way, I did warn the railroad that I would be doing that, so they were aware of it. So I guess what we're looking for here is, is there an agreement here on everything we agreed to so far? So far, we're saying we have to own it. We eventually will own it free and clear after it's replaced, but the railroad was still 50% responsible for the cost, with an assumption that, there will be 80 to 100% federal funding available for this project.
I don't wanna put that assumption
Okay.
in the contract.
Great, so we're not gonna list the funding part.
Because then they'll say, well, we signed it on the assumption you were gonna get this much funding. Now that it's gonna cost us more than that,
Yep.
Liable.
Okay,
yeah. we
okay,
want
so keep that out of the
purchase
language.
agreement.
Okay, but that's the point of discussion. Do we all agree that, we're not gonna just sit here and say, yeah, we'll take it, because we all know that technically and legally, we really shouldn't be doing that, because we don't own the bridge. We don't own it, and we will eventually own it. But the question really is here is, how do we get to that point? Bill?
Is there any maintenance anticipated?
Not regular maintenance, but the repairs, the action on that bridge are gonna come out to two things. It's either gonna be a major rehabilitation, or it's gonna be a replacement, okay? Our part of it, the most we probably ever did was last year, you seal coated it. That was to prevent further water and salt penetration into the deck, okay? But the substructure, maybe that's protecting it a little bit. But as we know, the sufficiency rating has not yet dropped to a point where it's warranted for a replacement. That would severely change when the engineer would be put in charge of doing the rehabilitation study and report. In there, he has to say whether it can be rehabilitated or not. If his analysis looks at it and says, if you try to rehabilitate that deck, you won't have a deck, now it becomes a replacement project. And that, if we get this in before October, November of this year, that would be 100% funding.
Will the state and federal government provide funding if we don't own it? Because
No.
you're-
No.
But you're saying that you want the contract, the purchase agreement to say that we won't own it until after.
No, we're gonna own it.
Oh.
We're gonna own it.
But they are
But-
going to agree to.
But by them signing it, they're agreeing that they're gonna pay for
Okay.
half of the
Okay.
maintenance
So they're
responsibility.
gonna sign over ownership, however, they're going to agree
Yes,
to.
that's the
okay.
carrot and stick, yes.
But from the document that their attorney proposed,
That's not what they.
that they have absolutely no intent of that,
Right.
because it says transfer of bridge structure is without warranty or representation, which the town accepts on an as-is condition.
Yes, that's exactly
Right,
what.
that's the one that was provided there.
Yeah, by Mr. Finke.
Right, and he used, I'm not sure what he used, but
Tunnel in.
tunnel ins, okay. And that one there, that was a whole different circumstance, there
So
they,
Jim has proposed that if, they have mentioned date of transfer, which I'm sure they're assuming is upon the monetary exchange, but you're proposing identifying a different date of but if, without the transfer, can we apply for the funding?
no, we have to own it. In order to get funding on the bridge, we have to own it. We have to own it, so that means signing an agreement, okay? And there's problems with what was provided, obviously, you call them out, But it is a carrot and a stick type of issue, because we, the town, will provide the ultimate fix. The ultimate fix is, we will own it, they will no longer own it. They don't wanna own it, they already tried to sell it to us for $1, a year, 2 years ago. They also, when we had the rehab report, or the study done to what repairs would be done, they said, we'll split the cost on this minor repair, but then we're out of it. Not acceptable either. What's acceptable is they're responsible for half of that cost until the project is finally done. And that could be in 2 years, that could be in 12 years. If they do a rehab, it could last another 10 after the rehab. Okay, so that's what has to occur in there. And by us providing the ultimate fix, that's the impetus for them to sign it, knowing full well that we're offering up a 50-50 split on the costs to rehab or replace, which we're anticipating is probably somewhere between 0 and 10% for us. And that's a good deal. It's a very good deal. So,
But do they realistically have means to even get that portion of it?
well,
Are
means.
they gonna,
Yeah, yeah. The means of it is probably the same as what they've been doing. If they don't have the money, they're like us, they borrow the money. And they'd have to have some fundraiser type deal or whatever. But I cannot see where any way, I mean, I'll never vote for it to say, we'll just take it, it's all ours. That's irresponsible, that's probably illegal. That's probably illegal in my view, because it's, we'd be saying, yeah, you own it, we'll take it for $1, knowing full well it costs $1 million to replace it. You know, even if it's, you know, 800,000, but if it's run through the state, it's $1 million project, you know, with the bridge. Remove and replace, you know, with new approaches, new deck. So that's where we're at. That's why
The
I
most
didn't want to wait for another monthly meeting.
problematic sections are 4, 5, and 7.
I got so many piles here. Further stipulation.
Any reference to accepting in its current condition is problematic, and then number 5, states the town will indemnify and hold harmless the museum and WISTA.
Which obviously we don't want to do. We can't do. So that's the ones that you would say strike and then add language.
You could strike, yes.
Okay, they call it a bill of sale, assignment of interest, consent to transfer, crossing license, and indemnity agreement. Okay, so what are those numbers again? You just mentioned?
4, 5, and 7.
4, 5, 7.
Well, really, 6, the license is for the town to replace the bridge structure. I guess that has to be part of
Yeah.
the agreement, because we can't apply for funding unless that language is in
Right.
there.
Right.
So,
Okay,
really, it's 5. You could strike 4 and 7.
yeah,
4 completely.
yep,
7, WISTOT is gonna have to consent to the transfer, but you'd have to eliminate any reference to warranties or accepting in as
yeah,
is.
I say as is, there's no way on that. So really, it is striking 4, 5, and 7. You know, and 6, again, how do you feel about that, number 6? The consent transfer. Railroad and what's that, we agree to consent to the oh, well, that'd be their action. That would be the DOT and, the railroad are doing the consent to transfer.
Right.
so does DOT have to sign this agreement as well? It's a three-way?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mentioned that in my letter.
yeah, and that
There's
was
no
also,
signature lines for anyone.
Right.
And the DOT would have to approve this too.
Right.
that was even done in 1980 when they built this bridge. The state was a signatory on that also. So, I mean, that's what I see. I mean, I don't see any way really around it. I'm surprised they tried it again, but it looks to me like they just grabbed it and did it, you know?
So you're looking at it more as conditions of a purchase agreement
Correct.
rather than what they've proposed.
Correct. That's what I'm thinking. It's been done, this is not groundbreaking by any means. This happens all the time. What's unusual is the current person we're dealing with, or entity, is a nonprofit. That's what's different here. You know, there's been railroad, there's been private parties, there's been jurisdictional transfers to go from counties to towns and from villages to state. I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen with these. But this is probably, at least to the research that they did, is they're saying it's the only, bridge owned by a nonprofit state. I don't know how you research something like that, but I would not doubt it. Why would a nonprofit own a bridge? I don't see it's possible.
So the board has to decide in what proportion does it want the museum to be liable for any non-covered work.
Non-covered work?
Or are you saying we will pay 50% of all costs until it's replaced?
That's what
And
I
then
had,
we will take ownership?
that's what I had in mind. That's, I think it's proper.
We have to take ownership
Right, we don't have ownership.
first.
Yeah, we have to
get
own
the
it.
grant.
We have to own it to get the funding, you know.
So we can't-
So how is your proposal gonna work then?
Yeah,
How? It's a condition of purchase. And it terminates upon final completion of the new bridge and acceptance by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. That's when the job is done.
Replacement of the bridge.
Replacement, yes.
But then do we really have a completed sale to apply for the,
right,
Correct.
it's conditional.
if it's conditional, yeah?
It comes down to who owns it, and we own it, okay? Put the worst condition, say the Railroad Museum dissolves, well then we're
Right.
stuck,
Mm-hmm,
okay?
are.
Yeah, you know, and that's not a good place to be,
yeah.
you know? But in order to get funding, we have to own it. A condition of sale does not void the sale, and it doesn't make it weaker either. We would be the owner, we're the owner, but they agreed by them signing the agreement that they're responsible for half of the cost to get there.
It's not that, that much different than the maintenance agreement the state wants us to sign, saying we will maintain the road after they rebuild the road.
Pretty much, different entities there, you know,
Would that be the intergovernmental agreement for 20?
there's
Yes.
two agreements with that one, we got that coming up, so. Again, I mean, to me, this is really a simple solution. The question is, when they get the agreement from us, as modified by us, will they sign it? And if they wanna get out of the bridge ownership business, I would think they would. That ultimately, it's the solution to their current problem of owning two bridges, not just ours, there's one in McQuanico, town of McQuanico too. You know, it should have probably been done in 1980. It should have been done then, and it never got brought up.
They were all here when, I was not at that meeting with the railroad, but they were all here when the gentleman from Walworth County was speaking and said this would be at the top of the list.
Yes, yes,
Like, so they've heard
yes.
all of that.
Yeah, the risk of not getting funding here is almost non-existent. The only question is whether it's 80 or 100%, okay? And we can't say zero to it, just like I don't think they could say zero to it. This is in effect, a negotiated agreement that solves both of our problems. We can't just sit here and they think they can let it just fall apart, and they can't.
Because we have an easement, right, or we have a rights to,
Yes.
so they can't do that.
Correct. So, that's the whole reason why I think, you know, it's proposed that way. I think I do think it's a win-win. Like I say, I can't speak for them, but I would think this would be a solution to the problem with that bridge. This would
Well,
be
if
the
they
solution.
wanted to sell it, they really don't have the intent to hold on to the ownership of that in perpetuity.
No, they don't
So,
want it. They don't
This
want it.
is a solution to their
Dilemma.
dilemma.
Yes.
And it may end up costing them nothing depending on what.
Sure, it's possible.
It's a possibility, but.
Yes, it's possible the funding takes care of everything, because when you do a state project, there's, within the program itself, or the award, there's a design function and there's a construction function, and part of each has an engineering component, that's all in there. That's why it gets kind of expensive, you know, and it has to follow, you know, the FDM, the Facilities Development Manual of the DOT, which keeps the federal government part of saying, yes, if you're gonna take our federal money, you have to follow these rules, which they've obviously accepted. So by doing it, that all of the costs to do this project would be in the grant. There's no part saying, well, they're not paying for engineering design or not paying for the construction engineering. No, that's all within that, and that would be another SMMA that would have to be signed ultimately that says, yeah, we agree, you know, and of course, we agree on it, you know.
So we can add a sentence that says, you know, the town will apply for all known state, local, federal funding for rehab and replacement.
Correct,
And that the museum agrees that they will pay 50% of any amounts not covered by the grant.
that is correct, yes.
And that would be the condition of sale.
Yep. And don't you agree that doesn't weaken the bill of sale, because we would own it? There's conditions on it.
Correct.
And like I said, even if the worst happens, which won't happen, but if they go belly up or whatever, we'd be responsible. Well, that's another reason for them to really sign it, you know, because ultimately it takes care of all of those issues that are in there. So, but that's, yes, that's what we would have to say.
You know, unless some of the grants out there have specific language that says you can't apply unless you have unconditional ownership. I can't imagine anything says that,
I
but
never-
that's a possibility, I suppose.
I
But the
never-
guy from Walworth County would have indicated that when he
You would
told
think.
us.
Yeah, and he made reference to a maintenance agreement that would also be done. Well, this in effect takes care of both issues
Yes.
too. There's 4 issues taken care of. And that was brought up by them, and that was 2 years ago, you know. So that's what I think has gotta be done. I think that does solve the problem, you know, so.
Actually, we had a county meeting last week, Thursday, and this was brought up, the bridge was brought up again, because this is so much on the county's eyesight
Radar.
Yep,
of getting something done and getting the funding for it by the end of this year.
right, right.
Because he asked how far along we were on getting this agreement done, I said, we have another meeting on Wednesday about this.
Yep. So what we need to do is authorize Jim to make those changes as we discussed here.
I'll make the motion to authorize Jim to make those changes as we discussed.
Second,
Okay, motion second, under discussion. Jim, you wanna state that right back, or Gene, did you record what Jim said there?
Yeah.
You have that.
Motion by Chad Wells, seconded by Barb Church, to authorize Attorney Mills to make the changes to the government, or the agreement with the Railroad
Sale
Museum.
agreement, yep.
isn't it conditions of purchase agreement?
Okay, conditions of purchase.
The conditions as
Well,
listed.
today it's a bill of sale, yeah, assignment of interest.
Yes,
We're gonna add conditions to it.
yes, as listed by Jim, and we are recorded here, so if you can get those right from Jim's exact words, because that's exactly what needs to be done. Okay, any further discussion?
Just on timing, May 1st is coming around next week. Do we need some urgency to this or
Well,
respond by date?
We'd like to see a final one for our next meeting, our May meeting. Is that possible, Jim? You got anything?
Well, keep in mind that even if we get it approved early, until the rating on the bridge comes down, we're not gonna get a replacement bridge.
No, but there would be a rehabilitation,
True.
okay? Because that's a known.
That doesn't solve their problem with getting it out of their hands.
Complete.
Not at this time period, but ultimately that document would show that, hey, when it is finding replacement, let's say they do a rehab next, or 2 years from now, and it's good for 10 more years, okay?
Right.
At that time, this document will still be enforced. Yes, we own it, but the agreement's still enforced that they'd be responsible for half the cost. Okay?
Why would they agree to that?
I would imagine that their attorney may put a time limit on it,
Yeah.
then he'll come back with edits.
No, they have an attorney like we have an attorney, okay? And again, their whole deal is they have to get rid of this. They can't own a bridge. That's a fact, okay?
So when do you want the data transfer?
I'd say as soon as they sign it, you know?
To be effective upon signage
Yes.
of the
And,
bill of sale or conditions.
yeah, I don't know if you wanna put a date in that sales agreement, but when we give it to them, we'll have to say, hey, we'd like an answer in a month, you know, or like to sign the agreement back in a month. Then we can, hire the, consultants to write that, grant application. It would probably be under two different programs. And then, you know, we'd have an answer on that because we know the deadline on that. And then, you know, they would be cut loose on it. The grant application would take into account the cost probably of a replacement, okay? But that would have to be, you know, within the report, and it's possible, I should say this is likely, but it's possible when that grant application is submitted, that they'll want a bridge rehabilitation report. And that would be somebody like possibly AIRS or CORE or DAR or somebody writing that rehabilitation report that says, this is what's gotta be done. The state may require that as part of that grant application. That costs a little bit more money there too. But again, we're not, if we don't get the ball rolling on this, we're gonna miss that opportunity this fall, which we have to hit, one way or the other, whether it's rehab or replacement. We need to get this agreement signed so we can proceed. All right, any other discussion on that? Because we didn't vote yet.
Yeah, Jim, are you thinking you're gonna add, like you have here, section 9 that says the transfer date, or like in
I'm gonna
the
add
opening
language
recital?
that
Says
says,
effective,
I'll send a draft to everyone, and then you can give the final approval, as to me sending it to Attorney
Think.
Fink in response to his draft. I'm thinking the date of transfer, I'm just going to say, the date of transfer is effective upon written approval of all parties. I can't read my own writing here.
Been there.
Upon the written approval of all parties involved as evidenced by the authorized agent, signing as a signatory below, or I'll work on the language.
All right. Okay, we good then? Chad, you good? Bill? Okay, on the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. Okay. Next item, discussion and possible action on approving rebid of town hall property parking lot paving project. And the whole reason we did this is to make sure that indeed we had a true apples to apples comparison from there was 3 bidders on this originally?
Yes, three bidders, and they were so far apart.
Yeah, and they all had different ways of attacking it. 2 of them actually met out here with you, and the third one didn't?
For briefly, but
Okay.
not in depth like everybody else did.
Okay, so in order to make sure that we have a proper one, we didn't approve the previous bid, and we're discussing today whether to rebid it, so that would be what we'd want to do. Anything else you want to, I guess you had a
Yeah,
write-up.
I kinda took, some of the bid language from the contractors and kinda married them all together on how they all looked at what should be done in the parking lot, and came up with the new, it's like the square footage and all that, cause one had it in square yard, one had square footage, they all kinda had their own language.
Yeah.
And different depths, different thicknesses of asphalt, just kinda, okay, we're gonna do it this, and this is the most it's should be. And you still don't know until you get underneath the blacktop.
Right.
What's underneath it, so
But
this
the-
would be, if you completely had to dig the entire parking lot out 10 inches, with 10 inches of new basin, a little bit of regrading, rolling, and the new asphalt.
Yep, so it's 6 inches of asphalt over 10 inches of new base.
Yeah.
And like
Because
you said,
one had 12 inches and 5 inches of
Yep.
blacktop, one had 10 inches of blacktop and 6 inches, or 10 inches of base, 6 inches of blacktop, one had 12 inches of base and 5 inches of blacktop.
right,
So I would just have a question. So I'm assuming you're gonna be here when they're doing this. So when you're like, no. We didn't do 10 inches of base throughout this whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have an eye on all of that.
Yep.
And my other question is does this go out to bid like it normally did?
This
or
is a normal
Is
bid.
this out to bid to who already?
We're rebidding this
Rebid.
one part of our road program.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
sending it out.
Yeah, because this was separate from the road program, and this was, because there's a lot of people, like Milwaukee, they don't really do road work.
Mhm.
They do a lot of parking lots and stuff like that. Because this is the first time in 25 years we've ever had Milwaukee done anything.
Yep.
Right, we put it in the paper again.
Yeah.
We have new packets available.
Okay.
Yep.
Joe,
I was,
go ahead, Michelle.
because of the issues we had, do we want to include language that said, only bids meeting this specific requirements will be considered?
We can add that, yeah.
So
That's-
that
that's
they,
why-
because
Isn't that
that's,
already in there?
Well, that's what we're saying, but
Yeah.
you're just making sure that, hey, that gives them a reason why we're actually rebidding it too, because they're gonna look at, hey, we just bid this.
Yeah.
No, follow
And
this.
it has changed a little bit from the original.
Yeah, right.
don't propose your idea of 12 inches and
Yeah,
5.
no,
Right.
This is what
This
we want.
This is what we want.
The spec.
And this will definitely cover it, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it gets a lot of loading, a lot of traffic and whatever. So, Bill, you had the question?
We are speaking about the 6 bullet points, or 7 bullet points. This is the contract.
Yep,
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
Yep.
How will that new parking lot be affected by construction of the police garage?
that parking lot will not be done until probably, until at least all of the heavy concrete is poured.
Thank you.
And they all knew that prior to this even bidding.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
yeah, because that was told to them too. And it's good question because, you know, obviously we want to get that heavy work all done in there.
Right.
We don't wanna
And
ruin it.
that includes the road out front, cause that's getting done too, so.
Right,
The road out here in the parking lot will not be done until that concrete is in. Cause you're
Okay.
gonna have, especially if they gotta dig 10 inches out of this, you don't want them coming across the rail.
Right. that's why I asked.
I think you need to put somewhere in the bid instructions that they're aware that there's going to be a delay of several months because they don't know what the cost of anything is going to be. You know, if they don't know when the garage concrete is going to be poured, I mean, it might not be till, I don't know.
And right now,
The
it's
end of the
end
year?
End of August, beginning of September.
Mm.
Yeah. Couldn't put that wording in there
I think you have to.
yet.
I don't know how they could effectively bid if they don't have that.
Right.
Say that in
Well,
there.
and scheduling and
Yeah. Scheduled parking lot for
frost and
end of
we
September.
could be getting into.
Yes.
Yeah,
We could
put that in there, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the motion needs to be to approve the rebidding of the town hall property parking lot.
I'll make a motion, that, with the changes for, seal proposals will be received to the town board until 4 PM on June 9th, 2023. With, new rebidding to contractors, with all of our changes, and the bid will be awarded June 12th, 2023 at 6:30.
And that's our date and time of our June meeting, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right,
Second.
Barb, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries.
I will look at a date towards the end of September so we can put it in before the bids go out.
Awesome, thanks.
Very good.
You'll have to coordinate with the contractors for the police department, right, to make
Yep.
sure they can do it,
Yeah,
when they can do it.
yeah. Cause that was part of our contract with the police department, is the concrete has to be in end of August, beginning of September. That was stated right in the word.
So they could do it in June, potentially, right? I mean,
Either
If they have the
with
time.
With his timeline,
Yeah.
no, it was end of August, beginning of September.
but I mean, they, yeah, when they have
It's
time.
possibly
they'll
if
do
they
it
have
as long as
project
it's
fall
done
through, it could
by
come
X.
earlier, but
As long as it's done by X.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding developing a mission, vision statement, and strategic plan. And this goes back to, Bill, was this 2 months ago, the motion?
February.
February meeting, motion by Supervisor Worker to approve vision, mission, strategic plan initiative. And then he had background, he had a recommendation, and the vote was, what, 4-0 or something?
I believe Chad was.
Chad may have been going. And that was for option 2, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, board may select and create a vision, mission, strategic plan, as well as seek assistance from a qualified consultant. So we tabled that, and then we brought it back up and say, hey, we gotta get back on it, mostly to see, you know, if there was any other recommendations from the communication committee too, because you had mentioned that you had I know Bill attended a meeting where that was discussed, I don't know if it was discussed since then, or if you have proposals also. Bill has provided a proposal from Nancy Young from Gray Horse Strategies LLC. How do you know Nancy Young?
I've known Nancy for many years through public health and watching her work as an independent consultant. She has 30 years' experience working with local governments, county and townships. She actually is active in her own township, which is in Pittsville. So Pittsville is between Wisconsin Rapids and Stevens Point. Their company serves the central and southern part of Wisconsin. So I knew her through public health. In the last decade or so, when I was working in public health, there was a rather large emphasis on community assessment and strategic planning. So Nancy's is a spin-off of that knowledge and expertise. And like I said, she does have strategic planning expertise, quality improvement, survey design, program evaluation. What's of particular interest to me in meeting with her, speaking with her, is that she does have a proprietary strategic planning module that she uses with working with clients. The other things in discussing this project with her was the timeline. She can accept this contract. She can accept this contract within the dollar amounts that we have available to us. I will say I ruled out 2 other potential consultants, one being School Perceptions. They were active with the local school board referendum here. They just didn't think it was a match for us, and especially with our budget. And another company, Schneider Consulting, which is out of Walworth, Elkhorn. Again, they said with what I proposed was fine, but once they got into any more sample sizings, focus groups, surveying, direct mail, any of that kind of thing, our budget's woefully slim. So, they don't want it, they don't want the job.
Okay.
So with Nancy, the key players in this strategic planning, vision, and mission project would be us and our department heads, our police, DPW, and administrative folks, to put together this document, not unlike putting together our budget document, working together in unison. What I liked about Nancy is she would come here, wouldn't be any Zoom meetings or virtual meetings. She comes here, she would work with us. She calls them retreats, but by that she means for 4 hours, half a day, 3 times, we've got to go someplace else. Like, there aren't a lot of places else we could go, like the village library, for example. So we get away from the day-to-day stressors, and we can concentrate on her methodology and coming up with a strategic plan, vision, and mission. And then she'll create the product.
Joe?
Yes, sir.
you recognize?
Go ahead.
I brought to Joe's attention last Thursday, when it was storming out on a court night. There may be a more pressing need for these ARPA funds. The steps leading into this building are crumbling and cracking. Almost every single edge is coming off. And if someone falls and gets hurt on those steps, with all the people coming in for elections and otherwise, town is going to be sued for
Yeah, I wish
sure.
Todd was still here, and we did discuss it. I told you how it got done. They used the
Backhoe.
$25,000 front end loader to clear the snow off the steps once, and that took care of that. The repairs would be done by them, and if I look at what I presented at the annual meeting, even after I threw 7,000, we didn't approve yet, on the ARPA, there's still 7,400 left. I don't think that's a very big project there, but I do agree that that's gotta be done. I do agree with that.
But Jim, to your point, there are many other uses for money.
Absolutely.
Um,
I think
There are
the
them- there are-
troubling stairs are more pressing than a mission statement.
True.
So, you know, hey, I'm not championing this as far as you gotta do this. This theme has been here for as long as I've been around. I mean, this goes back to before I was on the ad hoc committee, and as I laid out in my background and analysis, it's always there. We're always saying we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. So I just spent some time doing some researching and analysis. I believe I got a 4-4-0, I got a supermajority vote to do this, but it's not me. If you wanna say, we don't wanna do vision, mission, and strategic planning, then you just have to overrule the
That's not what I'm
motion.
suggesting. I'm saying if all we have left
I'm saying-
for, out of ARPA funds is $7,000, I don't know how much it's gonna cost to fix the stairs.
Well, she's coming in at 62.
Well, 62, but then you add on, if for all the, any meetings for all of our employees and anyone that's working here sitting, we're going to consider their hourly rates.
No, this would be a separate contract. This is for
Well, that's what
a
I'm
contract.
saying
That
is-
would be, there is other costs, you're right. There is other costs. Yes, not to mention, we wanna have meetings outside of here and say, hold at the venue or, on the square.
Like the village
Uh,
library.
Yeah, or the library.
Cliff Buchanan wanted me to just, comment. She wondered if this type of expenditure is even eligible for the use of ARPA funds.
It's
She
any,
didn't know for sure, she
No,
just
it
wanted
is.
me to.
that's not a
ask the
question. When the ARPA first came out, it could have been, cause they said it had to be related to COVID, okay? Now it's any governmental service that's provided by a municipality is eligible, so there's no question on that.
Okay.
The question really,
Yeah.
Is
they'll,
this really a
they'll,
service that's
Yeah.
provided though?
hmm?
Is this really a service that's being provided?
Well, it's a governmental action. We'd be doing it, we'd be approving it. So yes, that'd be a government activity, no question.
It's
Just-
an activity, but is it a service? It's my
Well,
question.
oh, I see what you're saying, a service for, well, yes. Yes, I mean, the reason why, when we first threw it out there, and what I put on, actually the ARPA thing, the reasoning was really simple. It said, why non-existent town statements? Some have it, some not, I don't know how many.
Very few
Research, very
have it.
few.
Very few.
Very few, I don't know how many you knew about.
Just this afternoon, I was at the county Department of Health and Human Services, and we approved a vision and mission statement as well as a strategic plan. They happen
So
to.
Warwick
Well,
County
you
has a
should.
bigger
Warwick
vision,
County is
drawing
absolutely-
economic development into
105,000
their
people.
county and.
Different.
If you're asking me why I think this is important, to me, it would be a unifying document, where we could point to something and say, that's our vision, that's our mission, that's consistent, or it's part of our strategic plan. To me, it would be a unifying.
Well, it's another check mark off of what the ad hoc committee recommended.
No,
No, the
Right.
board sent it to the ad hoc committee, and the ad hoc committee sent it back to the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they never, it was not part of that
It's
original.
guidance and a universal, a unifying document, because we would have to sit together and follow a module, a model from a consultant to lock us into a mindset of, who are we? Because right now, frankly, I think we're 5 individuals. I don't quite have a sense of unity or cohesion. And this document, we force ourselves to articulate that.
But the mission statement isn't a mission statement of what the
Just
board
the board.
consists of.
Just the board, yeah. So
Well, it's part of, I mean, we have to approve it, but how you get there, we don't even know how many people that could be. That could be open up to the entire town, it could be a committee, it could be
I thought that
us.
was
That
done
was-
already.
that
No.
was,
People put suggestions in at a.
Two,
at the
2 years
meeting.
ago, Barb and
Annual
Michelle,
meeting.
you came up with 3 from the public. And you asked for input from the public, hey, vote on these. What'd you get? 2 people responded?
I think 7.
7?
something like that.
Okay, so there was no consensus on what was the right one. There was 3 of them. right? 3,
There were three.
Oh, and I guess
I guess-
I'm confusing that.
That was 2 years ago.
It would
We
be,
narrowed it down to 3
The
statements.
visual logo that you were working with the
We didn't get to
school
that.
or-
no,
Yeah.
logo's separate.
Yeah.
This is mission, vision, strategic plan. And again, I'm gonna go back to what Bill just said to start out this thing is, hey, you know, we have to decide whether we wanna do this now, we're gonna do it later, or never do it. The question is, that motion was brought up and that's what we have to act on, okay? That's our decision, so, go ahead, Michelle.
So you mentioned in this planning, it is strictly the town board and town staff, is that correct?
In my
Because
recommendation,
in this
proposal-
within a budget of 6,000 at the time, that creates limitations as far as how you
Absolutely.
can sample, how you can survey, how you can, what methodologies you're gonna use.
Right,
What I also said in my council action sheet was, this could be supplemented, this could be enhanced in the future, we can do more. But for now, this would be an activity by the core employees of the town trying to articulate a vision, mission, and strategic plan. I think logically, the next thing to do, once we're done with our work in a short time, is to put it out there to the community to see if they agree.
Well, there's 2 ways to skin that, 3 ways actually. Because under number 2, it says the remote, you know, presentation to the staff and board members, that's just the, you know, the lead off, so to speak. But when it says
What to
facilitation
expect,
of 3 planning retreats up to 4 hours in length, that could be opened up to wherever the heck we decide. We could invite the whole town. And last time we did that, we had,
In the mind of the writer, that she was thinking
Thinking-
that's the board
okay,
and the 3 lead managers.
okay, I got you. Okay.
and exactly
Well,
like you're
what-
saying,
Chief, be Jen, be you, be.
No, it'd be Kim,
Kim,
Todd, and Al.
Yep.
but I think, I think, when we talked to the ad hoc
Jen
committee
wouldn't be
too,
involved in that?
it's thinking about what really, do we decide what the vision mission is, or do we
Oh.
need the community input? And I know you said last time we probably didn't have any input, and I think that's where the ad hoc and the recent communications committee said, yeah, I think we have to kind of identify who we want included in this, and leaders in the community, and actually invite people, because if you just wait for people to come, they probably won't.
Well, that's beyond the motion, and again, we can do that in the future. We have to pay for it. So now you're talking about key informant interviews, you're talking about focus groups, you're talking about sampling either through surveys or online, and you're gonna pay for that.
Yeah,
You're
there's
gonna
a
pay
cost
way beyond
associated.
the original $6,000 or $7,000.
Yeah, Jed,
And I can understand that Bill's point on how things can go up over time if you don't do it now, but I'm gonna be honest with you. The short time I've been on this board, and this did come up, and Barb was working with, I thought it was great with the school for a logo and like looking into this. The way that money's spent here, I think that, honestly, I don't think that this is a worthwhile thing for our community. We do not have like a ton of businesses. What do we? We're mostly a farming rural community. I just don't see the $6,000 plus add up everybody's wages for X amount of meetings. I mean, that's all a part of it.
In other words,
whether they're here or not, but they're focused their time there.
Yeah.
I just don't think that at this point for our township that those kind of monies are being well spent. Now, I think that those monies could go for more of what our building needs as far as their internet, as far as like what's gonna come up, oh man, we forgot all about that.
Furniture,
In the police garage that's gonna be getting done here in August. The timing of it and how we're kind of set up, what about about our community? If you wanna put something,
yep,
you
yep.
know, what is here, but I just think that,
Or budget for it.
I just think
This fall.
that's $6,000.
Well, yeah, you always
There's
can
gonna be change
budget
orders
for it.
that come up,
Money you got.
guaranteed with
But-
this police garage.
But
And we only have so many dollars that have been authorized.
Yeah. If we spend $33,000 in change orders, then I'm quitting.
Hey Todd, Chad, you weren't here, so, I mean, your comments are valued because now you can make them. You weren't here when this motion was passed
Right.
4-0. So you have a motion, I'm just doing the homework here, I'm just putting
I
stuff
appreciate,
out
I
there.
totally appreciate it,
So-
because nobody had a number before either,
Correct.
2 years
Well,
ago.
there was six, I did look at the ARPA funds, because it wasn't in the budget. I thought, well, where is there any money that might be available? And I went with that dollar sign to, well, I spoke to actually 4 places, and 3 of them just like, no way.
Right.
There's just not, this is not happening. And then I remembered, or I was told by some of my retired colleagues, give Nancy Young a call. This is what she does. She has a methodology. She's respected. If you, and you know, tonight when you go home, you can certainly Google Great Horse Strategies, and she seems to be the person that could do the job within the budget. And I don't, again, Jim, you're gonna have to help me out on this, parliamentary wise. I've already approved a motion for the initiative.
No, the motion
No,
was
was
the board
may.
may select to create a vision,
It was
mission,
may.
and strategic plan, as well as seek assistance from
May
a
select.
qualified consultant.
Make
That's
it,
why I
That passed
agree.
unanimously.
That's why I
That
agree.
language preceded the presentation in the February meeting. At the meeting, I.
That was the
presented
motion from the February town board
oh, I
meeting.
have that.
They,
That's
And then
why
there was a
going-
second motion to table it to a special meeting.
going
Which is
into
here.
the meeting. I did not know whether they would or wouldn't, so they may.
Okay.
But my recommendation, which is part of my motion, was that we seek a qualified consultant to create these documents with the staff members that I identified, which is what the people that Ms. Young identified.
Well, you can make any motion you want tonight, it's noticed up for a motion, it doesn't say it has to be the same motion that was made back at the February meeting. So if you wanna say, I make a motion that we accept the proposal of this woman, that could be your motion.
Yeah, if
Well,
you're saying,
I
you
think
can-
that-
I think it has to be different from your one in February, cause it doesn't really say anything other than you could do it or you could not do it.
board may select.
It was to
Which was-
accept item 2.
Right, that's what I thought it was,
Yeah.
which,
It was to
Yep.
accept option 2.
Yep,
Which
And that's how it
is,
was
the board
worded.
may select to
Yeah, and that's
create
how
a
it was
vision.
worded in the minutes.
right, and then there's a recommendation after that. It says, as town supervisor, I favor that the town board seeks a qualified consultant for
Right,
a
but the
short-term
Yeah, but
project
the
to create a
The
motion
vision,
motion
mission,
was-
statement,
basing it
blah, blah,
on.
blah.
yeah.
Well,
Options.
those are options, those aren't motions.
No, but the
So
motion.
further
Motion
recommended
was
to
to
everyone.
go with
Accept option
option
two.
Look,
two.
guys, either you're gonna do this or you're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
boils down to.
I think to Chad's point, I think as we started looking at websites, I think I found more websites that said a description of the town. It's a rural area, and we don't have a lot of businesses, so you can't really, so you focus on the camps and the lakes and things like that. That at least would be a first step. We kind of inherited a logo, I'm guessing at no
Not
cost.
beneficial, yeah,
Oh,
no.
so yeah, I don't know if we need to do that
Yeah.
officially, because sometimes it's on and sometimes it's not,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think,
Michelle, I
There's
missed
two
your
approaches.
point.
I think I think, you know, if we're concerned about the money, I think more town websites have a description as opposed to a strategic vision or mission.
In your 2030 plan, I know we were part of a conglomerate, but each town had their own separate section.
Correct.
When we were putting that together, did we have
There is
some
one in
sort of
there.
description for
There
the
is.
town of East Troy in
Right,
there?
right, it's pretty long-winded, but it's in there. Again,
What does
we're,
it say?
right, well,
That
it talks
we're
about maintaining the real character of this town, that's first and
preserving
foremost.
agriculture.
Yeah, and preserving the
Yeah, I thought we
agricultural.
had a statement somewhere.
Yeah,
Nature
yeah, but again,
of-
it's not one that you would,
We've
put
got
on
the
your-
Smart growth
yeah.
chapter.
So, and again, and the chief in the police has a mission statement, right? Maybe they have a mission and a vision, okay? So that's existing and they're override it. So you really come down to whether or not we wanna pull the trigger on this now, later, or never. And, you know, there's not probably a big push for it from the public, But again, we're the ones that are supposed to say, you know, is this a good thing to do for our town? And how can you argue that it's not a good thing to do, because, again, we don't have one? The flip side is, well, a lot of towns don't have it.
The
Lot of towns don't have it.
majority of towns do not have
Yeah.
emissions and vision.
And then,
At all.
again, to Chad's point about, you know, can we spend money on better things? Well, sure, but you can say that about any activity in this town. You can say, you pick your poison, or you can put it in a future budget. To do it or not to do it is really the question, okay? And, you know, what's really listed is saying, okay, we're gonna discuss it in possible action. So,
Unless I'm completely missing something, I believe I understand this, I don't believe that the town needs this, I don't believe that the residents are gonna break the door down because we didn't do it. I don't think that the money's spent, I'll make a motion that we do not proceed with this at this time.
Okay, so you're making a motion
Yeah.
to not move forward, at this time.
To not move forward with a vision, mission, and strategic plan.
That's,
That's a motion?
Or a consultant to complete it, or, you know, no.
well, you said move
Yeah.
forward, it means
Yep.
doing anything. In other words, you're
Yeah.
saying, let's forget
Table
about it. Well, no, you wouldn't be tabling it, you'd be
To be
saying at this
reviewed a year
meeting,
from now, I don't
we're
know
not
what's
taking any
coming.
action on it.
Nothing's happening here any more than what it is that we know of in the next year. It's not like businesses are growing and we wanna keep it rural, let's just write something out. This is what, you know, kinda like what you have, let's shorten it up.
Yeah,
That's what I would recommend.
I think you need to clarify your motion so everyone knows
Yeah.
what they're voting on.
I'll make a motion that we do not move forward with a vision and mission statement and strategic planning at this time. Let's review it in a year.
okay. All right, do we have a second on Chad's motion?
I'll second.
Michelle, second. Okay, discussion. One more time, Bill or Barb?
Well, I think well-run organizations have vision, mission, and strategic plans, I mean, period. And Chad, and just listening to what you were trying to say, if we would go through this process, we would be able to say, you know, this is our vision, this is our mission, this is our strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. There's extraordinary value to that for each of us as an individual and for us as a board as a whole.
Okay. All right, under point of discussion, I'll ask a question. You had mentioned, and I know at the meeting, like I said, for Bill, and I think Chad, you were there too, communications, there was discussion about looking at other firms or whatever. Did you do any other?
I found a consultant who is retired. Her fee would have exceeded the $7,000. She is retired. The people that she referred me to at Cardinal Stritch are also not available as the university
They're
has.
closing.
Right.
Yeah, that one just got shut down. Okay, did you
Yeah.
find anybody on this wavelength?
I reached out to the Towns Association and they did not have anyone that they could suggest. Again, they referred me to the list of town websites to see what anyone
What
had out
anybody
there.
else is doing?
Yep.
Okay. Was there any other comment you had on it? I mean, my view on this is, if we're gonna look for a line item on this in the future, it'll probably never happen, because every time when we do this, we end up cutting, and then you borrow what you can borrow for, and we balance the budget and we're done. This would not be under the authority of borrowing. And with levy limits, there will not be money. So the money is there now to do at least this part of it. So I'm kinda thinking this, I mean, if you don't do it now, you can say a year from now, you can say 10 years from now. Usually what happens on these is if you put it on the back burner, it stays there. You never see it again. And I think the iron is hot. I think you hit it, you know, but that's my view.
It's been that way for the last 3 years, by my recollection. They
Yeah.
start and stops. So I just wanted to, you know, get it on the table, put it in black and white for you, give you consultants, give you dollars, give you a timeline.
It
It's a
might,
project that could get done.
Yeah, it could get done.
it might help us focus on things that we need to move towards in the future. I mean, I see it as a roadmap, that we currently don't have.
Well, you have a motion, a second, and you've discussed
Right.
it.
Okay, well, I don't know if we're all done discussing.
Gee.
Do you have anything to add? You can
Just
vote.
to the conversation, is it possible to review the mission and vision statements out there by other municipalities, have that core group of people meet without expending several $1,000s, and have them do it just in-house? It's gonna be far less, because you're talking about several $1,000s, $6,200, plus that fee. Now you're just talking about that cost of the employees.
I hear you.
And you
So
can do
that
that
would be an
anyway.
option.
Mhm.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You
Would
can
that
do
be the option?
Okay. All right, any other comments before we vote? Okay, the motion is to not move forward. Okay, on the motion, to not move forward, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Against? No,
No.
No.
no. So the plan is then, according to this, is, we have a motion that was saying to stop it. Now we need a motion to do something, because we still have not taken any any official action here, at least, positive action. So is there a motion, to do something here, or is there gonna be no motion and we're done?
No, we still got one more thing on the agenda.
No. Oh, yeah, you're right. Are we done on this? So, Bill, are you gonna make a
Yeah, I'll make
motion?
a motion that the town board hire Gray Horse Strategies for this short-term project to create a vision and mission statement, as well as a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. And I would include in that motion that the entire town board, as well as the 3 department heads, police administration, Department of Public Works, participate in this planning initiative.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion second. Discussion on now the motion is to move forward with Gray Horse Strategies discussion.
This agreement, or this proposal says in the first 6 months of 2023. So that means by June 30th,
Well,
we
Again,
need to
the date-
complete.
This is from a March conversation. I have spoken, Nancy did call me a couple, 3 weeks ago, just asking for an update.
There's no
She
signature.
did tell me, her schedule's getting a little bit more packed. She could still handle the job. So it's the time period, not the timing, if that's what you're asking.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what do we need for a contract or?
We would need a proposal from them that has a place for both of us to sign, and that would have to be approved at the May meeting. Because again, this is to say move forward to, this is not a contract. You'd have to approve me to sign a contract.
and that, probably that kind of wording should be changed then if this.
Well, yeah, it would be more, because there's no signature here. I mean, where do I sign? Where is,
Right.
she's got a signature here, but I'm not gonna initial this
It's not
piece
a
of paper.
contract, It's just a
Yeah, this
proposal.
proposal.
Nothing.
So we would need a contract.
Well, do we also wanna set a limit in that contract if we are doing something off-site and looking at including the 3 department heads? We have a dollar amount that we need to go
Yeah,
beyond.
Bill, did your
62.
motion say not to exceed
It
6171?
did not.
No, it didn't, but
But
I'm
it did include
asking.
all
Well, this would be a
employees and board
proposal,
members
yeah.
to be involved, which in hopes that we can all make it to.
I thought it said 3 department.
Yeah, the department.
And the full-time
entire
board, the full-time boards would be.
But not all employees.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Right. Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, and a motion to approve the proposal, subject to signing a completed contract at our May meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed?
Name.
Nay.
All right, 3-2 to proceed with that. Okay, I'm gonna keep that one active. All right, the last item on the agenda is the Highway 20 project in the village. We've been, I think, a little fortunate here that what we insisted on, and then Attorney Mills discussed with the state about striking some language. They did do that. We're adding a paragraph or a bullet item here that ties in this intergovernmental agreement with the village. So they did their part, and the village, as far as I can tell, everything we asked them to do about taking responsibility for this project, they have done, and they have signed it. And they did that on April 17th. So do you agree, Jim, that, because you've seen the IGA with the town, or the town and village, and the language in there, basically, you're right, they added Exhibit A and B, but that's just referring back to the Exhibit A and B of the state SMMA. Okay, so did you have any issues with the state, the village IGA?
No, I gave them the language.
And they followed it?
Put in it, and they
Yep.
did.
And they did it, okay. I didn't know if they were gonna argue at their board level about some of the tweaks. Really, the only
They
thing
already
that,
signed it.
yes, I know, they did. So we have that, but, I was anticipating they would maybe change a few things. The only thing this does to our constituents is the cemetery and the good property across from Quick Trip, they would have to plow that snow. And if they don't, the village will, okay? They took responsibility for everything else on that, so we're not being pulled into something that could damage our funding with the state because of this project. So,
You're saying taking care of the sidewalks, plowing that snow,
yes,
right?
yes, because we
Shoveling
have,
the walks, is there, the cemetery and then the good,
yes,
whoever's in the good
it's
property.
in the town,
And if
that's
they
why
don't
we
do
got
it-
involved.
They don't do it, the village will do it, it's not gonna be up to.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Then they'll be charged for it.
Yes, and they're gonna do it, they said they don't have the equipment, but they said really they should, you know, so they're gonna do it. I don't think it's a big, huge issue, especially since they're going to get rid of that parking lane in there, so there'll be a bigger terrace. So the removal of snow will not be a big issue as if they just built the sidewalk and left the road where it was. They're gonna pull that lane in. So I think it's good, so there is a IGA with the village that I have to sign. And then there is the state municipal maintenance agreement that has been edited. And one will be attached to the other, but I would need authorization then to sign both of these. And Jim, I didn't ask you about the state one, but indeed what they did there is also what you asked,
Yes.
correct?
They removed, the second sentence in 4B, and they added
Yep,
number 9 that incorporates the town-village maintenance agreement as part of the state.
part of the agreement. So, this worked out a little bit better than I thought. It was a little bit of a surprise, because you remember back, long time ago, I think in 2016 possibly, we signed a document saying absence of need for exception to trans, 75, and in 2015, we did a resolution that addressed the need for an exception of trans 75 standards on a local lot project. So the sidewalk was out, but then when they started refining their plans with the village has a big plan to really get interconnectivity within the village. So that's adding sidewalks wherever they can. So when the state said, hey, we're gonna install that sidewalk, okay, state will pay for it. However, they had to sign one of these too, SMMA, and that means they're responsible for storm sewer, curb and gutter, street sweeping program, and sidewalk, repair and snow plowing. So I think this covers all of it. If Jim agrees that we're all good to go. Question? No?
Nothing else. I like it.
I do agree, you're good to go.
Okay, so I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Chairman Clarkowski to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of East Troy related to the installation of sidewalks as part of the state Highway 20 reconditioning project.
1 second.
All right, that was Chad.
Yep.
Second, any further discussion? On the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. I will sign these two and leave them here.
Her motion was only for you to sign one, someone needs to make
Oh.
a motion now to sign the state.
Also for that.
I make a motion to authorize Chairman Clarkowski to sign the maintenance agreement.
State.
State municipal maintenance agreement.
I'll second.
Michelle, second. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. All right, that's all we have listed on our agenda, so we need a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
That was a tie. Michelle. On the motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. We're adjourned. Thank you, 7 o'clock. What did we start, 4:30? 4:30. Oh, wow, it was longer than I thought. All right, now, Jim, when we send these,